Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And today, we're looking at something I think a lot of people wrestle with.
Oh, yeah.
It's this idea of faith and finances and how those two connect. Especially when we talk about leaving a legacy.
Right.
To help us kind of unpack all this,
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at excerpts from a Christian devotional
Okay.
called podcast20.pdf.
Podcast20.pdf.
And it's written by a pastor named Ghislaine,
Okay.
or as he's known as Pastor Guy.
Got it.
And he leads a church in Austin, Minnesota.
Interesting. And what's so cool is that Pastor Guy has such a diverse background. He's been an author, an interpreter, and even trained as a nurse.
Yeah.
So you really get this sense that he's bringing this really well-rounded perspective to his writing.
Yeah, it definitely comes out when you're reading the devotional. And, one of the big ideas that he comes back to again and again in this devotional is generational blessings.
Yeah, you hear that phrase a lot.
Yeah.
But he seems to be taking it beyond just the financial. It's not just about the inheritance you leave behind, but the values and the wisdom that you pass down. And he connects this to Proverbs 3.16, which says that wisdom offers long life in one hand and riches and honor in the other.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
So it really gets you thinking, like, how are you using your resources?
Yeah.
Your time, your money, your talents, to create something that will truly benefit the generations that come after you.
So it's almost like, are you investing in things that will actually like grow and multiply rather than just, stuff that kind of fades away?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that leads perfectly into the next point that Pastor Guy makes, which is the classic struggle between what we need versus what we want.
Oh, yeah.
He uses this proverb in the devotional. He says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down."
Oh, I like that.
It's basically saying, are you being thoughtful about your choices or just going for that instant gratification?
Right. And then he also mentions this OBD principle. And I got to be honest, I'm not quite sure what that stands for.
Yeah, he doesn't really spell it out directly in the devotional, but from the context, it seems like he's using OBD as a label for spending that's really driven by something deeper than just wanting the item. Like maybe you're trying to fill some kind of emotional void or keep up with appearances, or even maybe get back at someone through your purchases.
Whoa, that's kind of intense.
Right. It's pretty deep. It really makes you think twice about, like, why do you buy certain things?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it does kind of connect back to this idea of stewardship. Like, are you using your resources in a way that lines up with your values and your goals?
Exactly.
Or are you letting your emotions, call the shots?
Right. It's about being intentional.
So instead of just focusing on our desires, Pastor Guy is saying we should really be focused on growth.
Yeah. He makes a strong argument that true fulfillment doesn't come from just achieving a bunch of goals or, getting everything you want. It comes from growing as a person, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. He draws a parallel to Psalm 37.4, which says, "Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." So the point is that if your heart's in the right place, then your desires will naturally align with what's truly good for you.
And so is this something he practices himself? Like, does Pastor Guy kind of live this out?
Oh, absolutely. He talks about how he intentionally sets yearly goals that are all about personal growth, not outward achievements. So instead of saying, I want to earn X amount of money this year, it might be, I want to deepen my understanding of Scripture, or I want to be more patient with my family. It's about becoming a better person.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a really different way of thinking about success.
Yeah.
It's not about what you acquire, but who you become.
And it seems like this focus on personal growth really ties into the key prayer section of the devotional. There are 14 prayers in total, but they all seem to revolve around this idea of strengthening your connection with God. And asking for guidance in how to live out your faith.
And so, for example, like, what are some of the prayers that he includes?
Well, the first prayer is all about claiming God's promise to build his church. Which kind of ties back to that legacy idea that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
Then you've got prayer 5, which is asking for God's blessing on your service within the church, specifically through signs and miracles.
Oh, wow.
And then even prayer 13, where you're praying for the pastor's anointing to be poured onto others. It's all about this ripple effect of growth. Like, how can you be a part of something bigger than yourself and contribute to the well-being of the whole community?
Now, there's this other phrase that Pastor G uses that I really wanted to ask you about. It's this 2025 Uppercut Arise.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
All right. So picture this. It's like Pastor Guy's rallying cry, his call to action. He's saying, this is the season to stand up and fight for your faith, for your family, for your financial well-being, and for your future.
So it's kind of like in all these areas of your life.
Yeah, it's this holistic approach.
Right.
And he even connects it to 1 Timothy 6-point rule, where it says, fight the good fight of the faith.
Oh, wow.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Pastor Guy believes that this fight isn't about, struggling to earn something. He says we're actually fighting from a position of victory thanks to Christ's sacrifice.
So it's like the battle's already been won.
Exactly.
But we still have to claim it and live it out.
It's about living in that victory.
That's really powerful. I like that a lot. So it's not about striving out of fear, but standing firm in your faith.
And that's what I find so intriguing about this whole devotional, Mr. G, is blending these really deep spiritual principles with very practical advice on how to manage your money, your time, your energy. He's saying they're all connected.
Yeah, I mean, it is about building a life and a legacy that truly reflects your values and has a lasting impact.
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and I think it's one we should all maybe spend some time thinking about.
I agree. And this deep dive has just scratched the surface of what Pastor Guy explores in podcast 20.pdf.
Yeah.
But hopefully it's given you a little taste of his approach.
Right.
And spark some questions for you to consider.
We'll be back soon to unpack even more from this really fascinating devotional. But until then, why don't you take a moment to think about what stood out to you the most in this first part? What resonated with you? What surprised you? And how might you apply some of these ideas to your own life?
We'd love to hear your thoughts.
So welcome back. We're continuing to look at Pastor Guy's devotional podcast 20.pdf. And we were talking about this 2025 Uppercut Arise.
Yeah, his call to action. It's really striking imagery. And an uppercut, it's a move that comes from strength and strategy. And as we discussed, Pastor Guy's really framing this within the context of victory already won through Christ.
Right. It's like the victory's already there.
It is.
But we need to live it out.
Exactly. Live in it.
And one thing that I noticed was how he breaks down this fight into 4 key areas.
Okay.
Faith, family finances, and the future. Why do you think he focuses on those 4?
Well, it seems like he's emphasizing this really holistic approach, recognizing that these different aspects of our lives, they're all interconnected. A weakness in one area can actually impact the others.
Yeah.
But when each of those areas is strong, it creates this ripple effect of positive change that flows outward.
It's almost like when you're building a house, you need all the parts of the foundation to be strong.
Right.
For the whole structure to stand.
That's a great analogy, and Pastor Guy seems to be suggesting that if we neglect any one of these areas, faith, family, finances, the future, it weakens the whole structure of our lives.
So how does this connect back to the idea of generational blessings that we talked about in the first part?
Let's think about it this way. What if we pass down this uppercut mindset, this commitment to fighting for what really matters to our children and our grandchildren?
It'd be like giving them the tools and the mindset to not just survive,
but
to thrive.
But to really flourish.
Even when things get tough.
Exactly. Instead of just leaving behind material wealth, which can be fleeting, we're actually instilling in them these values and principles that will help them build a life that's both fulfilling and impactful.
So it's about more than just stuff.
Way more.
It's about passing on something that lasts.
A true legacy.
And I think it's really cool that Pastor Guy seems to walk the walk.
Oh, yeah.
He's not just talking the talk.
Yeah.
I mean, we know he's a pastor, but he's also an author, an editor, interpreter, mentor, even training to be a nurse.
It's truly impressive. Yeah. I mean, you get the sense that he's someone who is constantly seeking growth and pushing himself to use his gifts in new ways. And that passion for growth, I think, is a key part of his message.
Yeah. It's a good reminder for all of us.
Yeah.
We don't have to limit ourselves.
Right.
There's always room to learn and grow no matter what stage of life we're in.
Absolutely. And his commitment to serving others really shines through in everything that he does. It's not just about personal achievement for him. It's about making a positive impact on the world around him.
And speaking of service, we should probably mention that he leads a French-speaking congregation.
Yes.
In Austin, Minnesota.
I was just going to say that.
Called L'Église en Mission.
Wow, I love that.
Which translates to Church in Mission.
Even the name itself really suggests that this is a community that's actively engaged in the world, not just focused inward.
And that lines up perfectly with his call to action.
Absolutely.
You know, it really reinforces this idea that faith isn't meant to be passive or private. It's a force for positive change.
In our lives and in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got this outward focus.
Yeah.
Combined with the emphasis on personal growth and building a lasting legacy.
And it creates this really compelling picture.
Yeah. So what stands out to you the most about how he kind of combines these ideas?
I think for me, what resonates is the balance he strikes.
Okay.
You know, he encourages us to fight for what matters, but to do it from a place of strength and faith, knowing that we're not alone in this. And he challenges us to think about the long-term impact of our choices.
Yeah. Not just for us, but for the generations that come after us.
Exactly. It's a pretty powerful concept.
It is. It makes you think about what kind of legacy are we building?
Right.
What are we going to pass on to those who come after us?
Those are some really big questions to think about. And we've only just begun to explore all the insights in this devotional.
Yeah, this is just a taste.
We'll be back for the final part of our deep dive soon. But until then, we encourage you to reflect on what's resonated with you so far.
Yeah. What wisdom will you carry forward? Welcome back. It's our final part of this deep dive into Pastor Guy's devotional.
Yeah, I feel like this whole devotional has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's been so interesting to explore how he connects faith and finances.
Right. And that whole idea of building a lasting legacy.
Yeah, and he doesn't shy away from those tougher topics.
Oh, no, not at all.
Like, you know, the whole struggle between what we need versus what we want.
He really pushes us to examine why we spend the way we do. You know, like that proverb he quoted, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down.
Yeah, I think about that one a lot.
Yeah, instant gratification. It's tempting.
It is, but it doesn't really satisfy, does it?
Not in the long run.
And I keep coming back to that OBD principle he talked about.
Yeah, even though he doesn't tell us what it stands for, it's definitely pointing to something really important.
Yeah. It's like sometimes our spending is just a symptom of something deeper going on.
It really is.
You know, like insecurity or trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Or even just retail therapy when we're feeling down.
Yeah. It's like we're trying to buy something to make us feel better.
It's a quick fix.
Yeah. But it doesn't really work.
No, not really. And I think that's where Pastor Guy's message about finding true fulfillment comes in.
Yeah, it's about aligning our desires with something bigger than ourselves.
Personal growth, you know?
Yeah.
Not just in our faith, but in all areas of life.
Right. And it's not just about us either. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves so that we can then make a difference in the world.
That ripple effect again. You know, like dropping a pebble in a pond.
And that goes back to those generational blessings. It's not just about money, but about passing on wisdom and values.
Right. And a heart for service.
Yeah. A legacy of giving back.
Imagine if everyone focused on that kind of legacy. It's a beautiful thought.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think what makes Pastor Guy so inspiring is that he lives this out himself.
Oh, yeah, he does. He's constantly learning and growing and serving others.
I love that about him. Like he's leading his French-speaking congregation in Minnesota. Yes. And writing and interpreting and even training to be a nurse.
Yeah.
I mean,
talk about using your gifts.
Right. It's like he's saying there's no limit to what we can do.
And his message of 2025 Uppercut, arise.
Yeah, that really stuck with me.
Me too.
Yeah.
That we have the strength to fight for the things that really matter.
Our faith, our families, our finances, our future.
And we're not fighting for victory. We're fighting from a place of victory.
That's powerful. It's not about fear or scarcity. It's about faith.
Exactly. And that's what I'm taking away from all of this.
Me too. So as we wrap up this deep dive into podcast20.pdf, what will you take away from it?
What resonated most with you?
You know, for me, it's this reminder that faith isn't just something we do on Sundays.
Right.
It's about living it out every single day.
In everything we do.
And our finances, our relationships, our growth. And it's about using what we have to build a legacy that lasts.
Absolutely. And if you want to dive deeper into all of this, we encourage you to check out Pastor Guy's full devotional.
Yeah, we've just scratched the surface here.
But hopefully it's given you some things to think about.
And maybe even inspired you to live a life of purpose and impact.
To build your own lasting legacy.
Until next time, keep seeking wisdom.
And keep diving deep.